Good evening. Back again for a quick recap, as is normal on our Monday show here. Um, we are, 11 weeks, 12 weeks into the season. It's um, it's been pretty exciting so far. There's been a few things um, that have happened that were, unexpected, such as Tyler Reddick dominating the beginning part of the season. Um, but other than that, jumping into Texas, it was one of the best weekends across all three series in my mind. Um, Texas went through a stretch there where the racing was terrible. It was boring. It was some of the most boring racing there was. They did some changes, and the track's coming around, and it's getting a little more worn out. It's getting a little more racy, so to speak. It's turned into one of the better ones. I was hoping. I saw some last year where it started looking better, back like it used to in the previous days. Back in the older first runnings of this was one of the best tracks on the circuit. People loved this track, but then it got bad and attendance fell. I was happy to see that NASCAR and Texas Motor Speedway announced that the grandstands were a sellout this weekend, so that's big. Having the race at the end of April, first part of May is a lot better than having it in June in the middle of the afternoon in Texas too. So that's a big help. I still wish they'd go to a night race there. The Truck Series raced at night, and I thought it was just amazing. I love night races, so take that for what it's worth. I think a lot of fans would agree that night racing is great, but understand it's a Sunday sport, and it's hard to go at night because people have work and stuff the next day a lot of times. So I get that aspect, but I do wish it would consider a night race here or there. But if it keeps racing like it did this whole weekend, then it will potentially there may be an option for Texas to get a second date. Not saying it's going to happen, not saying it's even in the talks, but there is some potential there that it could. Now, who would lose a track? I don't know. Or maybe even Texas goes back into the playoffs or the chase format now. There's just a lot of different options you can do with it. I did hear some news that Ben Kennedy, up in NASCAR's corporate, had talked about he would like to actually build the schedule out for about 4 or 5 years ahead of time, so fans have plenty of time to not just fans, but the fans more importantly have a chance to set their schedules out if they want to go to a race that's really far away. Say you're sitting here in Columbus, Ohio, and you want to go to the San Diego race or Sonoma out in California or Vegas or Phoenix. Well, that's not something you can make real quick. So it takes a lot of, planning. So if you knew exact dates years ahead of time, then you could plan your trip. So we'll see if anything comes of that. It wouldn't surprise me. Ben Kennedy's had a lot of good ideas. He's the one that kind of forefronted the whole return to Bowman Gray Stadium for the Clash and all that. So I like what Ben Kennedy brings to the table in that role. But like I said, racing was phenomenal, I thought, this whole weekend. All three races had, passes, drama, rate. It wasn't just, single file, let's ride around in a circle stuff. So with that, we'll jump into the Truck Series as soon as I can get my mouse to operate. There we go. So we'll go look at the Truck Series, and this race was, I had mentioned on my preview that you had a couple of Cup Series guys dropping down into it that would really want to keep an eye on. And it played out exactly like that. I didn't pick any of them to win because, again, I like to pick people from the actual series versus people that are dropping down in levels, I guess, so to speak. I know that sounds bad because they're different vehicles, but uh, this race had a little bit of everything. Okay, it ran its course. You had Ben Rhodes won the pole and led wire to wire the whole first stage. He led every lap and won the first stage. And then, of course, pit stops and everything. And then, we started up the second stage, and Carson Hocevar started flexing his muscle coming off the win at Talladega. So, really, really strong showing by Hocevar. Wound up leading the race high 76 laps. Had 8 cautions for 39 laps throughout the race. But in the end, it came down to Spire Motorsports trucks, which was Carson Hocevar beating Kyle Busch. So he beat him by 7/10 of a second, which doesn't seem like a lot in our time, but it is actually a pretty good distance in NASCAR world. Considering most races are, a couple of tenths or less than a tenth. This was actually Kyle Busch is one of the most dominant truck drivers there's ever been. And this was actually Hocevar. This is the same track he got his first Truck Series win in back in 2023. So it was a good little run. They do inspection after everything. This is something I'm going to try to throw in every week too, if there's any issues. And they inspected all the cars, our trucks, and everything was fine, confirming the win for Hocevar. There have been times where drivers have failed inspection after the race and they've been disqualified. But we did have we did have one issue in the Truck Series, and that was the number 34 truck driven by Lane Riggs. He had 2 lug nuts that were not secure, and so the team will receive a $2,500 fine, and one of their crew members will be ejected for one race, suspended for one race. So, yeah, that's going to happen. I mean, these lugs, sometimes they don't get fully seated. Sometimes they just come a little bit loose. But NASCAR is very adamant that they need to be secure, and when they're not, they fine you for it. So, looking at the results of the Truck Series, we'll go over and look at the top 10 finishers. Starting with number 10, we'll go with Chandler Smith. Ty Majeski came in 9th. Christian Eckes, Daniel Hemrick. Lane Riggs finished 6th. Ben Rhodes, pole sitter, finished 5th. Brandon Jones, Caden Honeycutt, Kyle Busch, and Carson Hocevar, of course, rounded out your top. I was really pulling for Caden Honeycutt. I like that kid. He is he's a Texas native, so he was really wanting to win at his home track, but just came up a little bit short. Did take over. We'll get into that in a second when we get into the standings. Your fastest lap was run by Jake Garcia at 29.54 seconds to create a lap around the 1.5 miles there in Texas. So that's just where we look at that. We go look at our standings for the Truck Series. And we're going to look at, again, we're going to keep an eye on the top 10. So we'll look at the top 12. We'll go 2 below the cut line for the chase, which, you're talking, it starts after race 18, and we're 7 races in. So there's 11 races left in this before then. But sitting at 12 is Justin Haley. This is really impressive. Ram is making their return to the Truck Series this year. And to be running 12th in a first-year program is pretty impressive. we'll see if they can hold on and keep that. Be really a good boost for Ram and them to get Colleague, I believe, is the Rams here. Yeah, Colleague Racing is the to get into the chase. So they need to gain 2 spots, but they're only 8 points out, 9 points out of 10th. So plenty of time to catch up. Jake Garcia sits right there on the outside too. He's 8 points back. Your people that would begin the chase today are Stuart Friesen, Tyler Ankrum, Corey Heim. Corey Heim probably won't be eligible for the chase. There's still some discussion about this, whether he will be or won't be. So we'll see what happens because he's only running a part-time series. So we'll see. Chances are he could fall back down the list anyway, so it may not matter. But as of right now, we're going to go with he's got the 8th spot. Obviously, if he is not eligible, then Jake Garcia would move up and Justin Haley would be out and Daniel Hemrick would be right behind. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get closer to the end of the season here, the regular season. Ty Majeski in 7th, Christian Eckes, Ben Rhodes, Gio Ruggiero, Lane Riggs, Chandler Smith, and of course the aforementioned Caden Honeycutt is 14 points ahead of Chandler Smith. This is the first time Chandler Smith, I think, has been out of the points lead since the beginning of the season. So you can still, there's a long way to go. So we're just going to have to monitor it and see where we go from there with that. So that was your standings for the truck series. We'll see if we got any questions or comments. Nothing right now. We'll check back on that after this. Next, we're going to jump over to the O'Reilly series. And this one started crazy. Last week's winner, Corey Day, crashed into the wall on lap 1. So it was like, well, okay, we're in for all kinds of craziness. Didn't really. Excuse me. Drink real quick. So Kyle Larson led 93 laps in this race. Justin Allgaier won the first stage. He led every lap in the first stage, kind of a recurring theme you'll notice in here. And then Connor Zilich won stage 2. He was actually in the mix, and I thought he was going to be in for a very good day, but wound up having a flat tire in the final stage and had to kind of come in and pit to change the tire and lost all of his track position and wound up finishing 21st. So, but Larson kind of took the lead. And again, I told you 0.7 seconds was the difference in the truck series. In this series, it was 0.29. So roughly 0.3 of a second. So you see how much closer it would be. And Larson didn't even really think he was going to win. He even said he was faster than me. He just, Justin just couldn't get the right move. Kyle Larson's one of the best. I'm sorry, he is. At anything he drives. Hasn't won yet this year on the Cup Series, but I would never. Kyle Larson's one of those bet against him at your own risk in anything he's driving. So remember, he jumped into an Indy car 2 years ago for the first time after doing practice and qualifying and was actually leading the Indy 500 for a little bit. I think he led like 1 or 2 laps. He didn't lead for a long time, but to still be up there and do it, and he was running 5th a lot. So he's just that good of a driver, but he's also really good at using his mirrors to block people. And he knew where Allgaier was going to go. And so he started, again, you'll hear me say it, he put the air car in front of him and put all the dirty air on the front of the 7 car for Allgaier. And it pushes you back. It's the way these cars work. Clean air on the front of the car is king, and dirty air coming off the top of the car onto the car behind it is not. Places it doesn't really matter, your speedways, Daytona, Talladega, where the cars are nose to tail anyway. So, but he was good. Allgaier, I thought Allgaier was going to get him, but he couldn't get there. So, you know, credit to Kyle Larson. We had 7 cautions. I thought we were going to have more after having 1 on the first lap, but we only had 7 for 36 laps. But we did have the Dash for Cash, the final installment in the O'Reilly series. So that's over now. And Brent Cruz won the 100,000 for finishing highest of the 4 drivers. So I need to verify that because yeah, it was Brent Cruz. That's right. Mayer wasn't eligible, I don't believe so. But Brent Cruz won the 100,000 for that. And then we did have 2 cars have issues. There was no issue with Larson's car. He was the winner. The number 9 Chevrolet of Carson Kvapil and the 26 Toyota for Dean Thompson each had 1 unsecured lug nut in a check. And what they will do is, because it was 1, they lose pit selection next weekend. So that makes a big difference in a race. Pit selection is pretty big, and I'll get more into that with the Cup Series when we talk about that here in a second. Because yeah, that was interesting in the Cup race on Sunday. So we'll look at that real quick. Well, let's go take a look at our standings for our O'Reilly series. And we'll get over here, go to standings. Again, this is the top 12 drivers, so we'll look at about 14 or 15 of them. And it starts at the end of race 24 is their cutoff for the regular season. So we're halfway through the season for the O'Reilly series. And you're looking at the top, we'll look at the top 15. Why not? Raja Caruth, Brent Cruz, Ryan Sieg, Sam Mayer, William Sawalich, Taylor Gray. Sam Mayer, William Sawalich, Taylor Gray, Parker Retzlaff, Carson Kvapil, Austin Hill, Sammy Smith, Brandon Jones, Corey Day, Jesse Love, Sheldon Creed, and Justin Allgaier are still leading the points here. So everybody from Sam Mayer up would be in today. Sam Mayer has an 8-point lead over Ryan Sieg and a 12-point lead over Brent Cruz. I still like this Brent Cruz kid. He's the 18-year-old. So we're going to keep an eye on him really well in this series. Again, this series, if you're a Chevrolet fan, this is your series. If you look at all the bow ties, well, I mean, there's tons of them. Not as many Fords or Toyotas in this series. So it's a Chevrolet dominated series, which is fine. Doesn't really matter. I still watch the races, even though I'm a Ford guy, just because I enjoy the racing. I think it's great. Some of these young kids, your Corey Days, even Sheldon Creeds, who's, they're older. They've been in the series longer, but Carson Kvapil, your Brent Cruz, as I mentioned, Raja Caruth is really good. So I like watching some of the young guys to see what we can get from them as far as what's going to be coming up in the next, handful of years to the Cup Series. This is kind of where I start prepping for if my driver quits, retires, loses his ride, who's going to replace him? Do I like him? Things like that. So this is where I start prepping for who's coming up that I may watch. So that's our look at O'Reilly's. We'll go look at the Cup Series. And the Cup Series came down to, it's craziness. It's Texas. It's crazy down there. Your winner wound up being Chase Elliott. He won by 0.4 seconds. He is actually the first repeat winner in the last 10 races. So Texas has had 11 or had 9 races in a row with different winners, and it changed. This week was the first one. Was Elliott. Craziness happened in this kind of early. Lap 68 in the first stage. Christopher Bell's leading. He's just cruising around. And the number 34 car of Todd Gilliland loses it in the corner and spins, goes up. Bell goes down low on the track. And here comes Gilliland and literally clipped him barely. But it was enough that it spun Christopher Bell out, and he went up into the wall and destroyed his car. That guy has the worst luck at the Texas Motor Speedway of anybody. I'm not sure if next year when they go there, he doesn't come down with the flu and have somebody else drive the car. It would probably cross my mind. For as good as he is, it's just crazy. And literally, he had just taken the lead before that happened. So it's NASCAR. That's why I say you never know what's going to happen. You can have dominant drivers, but at any given moment, something crazy can happen, and you're out of the race. So we had a little bit of strategy play out with pit stops and stuff, but Eric Jones wound up winning stage 1. They had a caution, that caution actually, 68. And so there was a 6-lap sprint to the end of the stage 1, and he stayed out on older tires and wound up holding off everybody for the stage win, which gained him 10 extra points. So Chase Elliott won stage 2. That one, there was a caution right before the end of the stage. They got racing. They went back to green they had 1 lap. It was a 1-lap shootout. Pretty crazy. A lot of jockeying for position on it. Nobody wrecked, which was kind of shocking. I really thought we'd have a wreck or 2 there, but we didn't. That was at lap 165 when Elliott took that. But you had so many issues on pit road in this race. At the beginning, you had Chase Briscoe was trying to get out of his pit, and Kyle Larson's coming in, and they made contact. Briscoe had to back up to leave his pit, which of course cost him time. You had an incident on the pit stop on lap 94. Cole Custer slowed down, pretty much stopped on pit road so Ty Gibbs could exit, and then he would go into his pit stall. Well, Joey Logano was, looking at cars around and trying to, get down pit road and monitor his speed. Never saw Cole Custer stop and just plowed into him and ripped the whole left front fender of Logano's Mustang off. It literally looked like you just took a Sawzall and just cut, or a can opener and just opened it up. It was crazy looking, but tons of incidents on pit road. Ryan Blaney, again, one of the fastest cars, charged from the back to the front. Gets on pit road, more issues. Now, I will say they did make pit crew changes on that team a couple weeks ago, and they seem to be doing better. This instance wasn't the pit crew. This was actually Blaney. When he went to leave, he apparently had it stuck in the wrong gear and stalled the car out twice. 3 times, actually. He had to refire it 3 times. So, and he acknowledged, he came on the radio and said that was his fault. That was early in the race, but when you're back in traffic, it's hard to come back from that over and over and over. But he did his best, still secured a top 10 out of it. So, Blaney doing Blaney things. Let me go to the back and drive to the front 3 or 4 times. I swear, I need to go look up the exact numbers, but I guarantee you he's passed probably double the amount of cars of anybody else throughout the whole season. If the highest person has passed 100 cars, he's passed at least 200. It's insane how good that car is for the finishes they have. Top 10s are good, but if they would eliminate the pit issues, that team would probably be second in the points. Maybe, I mean, they're only fourth, but they could be second. They could be right on the heels of Tyler Reddick. They could have won 3 or 4 races by now. So a lot of work to do. But again, well, we've got a pretty good distance to go in the regular season. So just a quick note, we'll probably go back on either Wednesday about the same time, 6 p.m. with our preview. This will be a pretty short preview, I believe, unless we get some people joining me like last week. With we're going to the Finger Lake region, as I like to say it is, in New York, and Watkins Glen for some road course racing. So everybody that says, oh, all you do is turn left, tune in on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, actually. All 3 series will be racing up at Watkins Glen, turning left and right. You'll get there's 4 races actually this weekend. The Arca Menard series is going to race, but they race at 1:30 on Friday afternoon. The Truck series will race at, I think, 4:30, and then the O'Reilly series will race at 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, and on Mother's Day, the Cup series will race at 3 p.m. They don't always race on Mother's Day, but the way the schedule falls this year, they do. So some years this is their off week, but not quite this week. And I'm turning purple again. I love it. I really need to figure out why I keep turning purple. So we'll jump through this real quick. Go do the let's look at the results real quick. And we'll start down. We're going to run through all the Cup series like we normally do. Christopher Bell obviously was last. Joey Logano, due to the incident on pit road, was 37th. Ty Gibbs had a wreck later in the race, knocked him out. Some contact with Ryan Preece. It was kind of one of those there. Ryan Preece made the comment, I'm going to race you like you raced me. So apparently there was something going on. Didn't see the whole incident, but that's coming out of Ryan Preece. Larson finished 34th. Chad Fincham, Todd Gillen, Corey Heim, Cody Ware. There's Josh Berry. Hey, at least he was in the top 30 this week. 29th. Noah Gregson, 28th. Michael McDowell. Ross Chastain. There's something not right with this Trackhouse team right now. Don't know exactly what it is, but they're struggling pretty good here. Allmendinger, Gil, there's Briscoe. He had that incident with Larson that kind of hurt him. Zane Smith, Nemechek, Kyle Busch, Hunter Nemechek had an incident at the end of the race on the white flag lap. Some people say Kyle Busch was in the wrong. I'd have to go back and rewatch the whole incident to see what happened. Apparently, from what I gather, Nemechek kind of moved in front of him, and Kyle Busch didn't like it and kind of paid it back. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. Ricky Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, Shane Van Gisbergen. Better watch him and the Connor Zillich, who finished 16th. Watch those two hardcore next week. I predict one of those two will win Watkins Glen. Austin Cindric, pretty good run for him. Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, good 13th. Eric Jones, who had a stage victory. Riley Herbst. There's Blaney. Bubba Wallace is just kind of cruising along there. He finished 9th. Byron 8th. Hocevar 7th, last week's winner. Daniel Suarez, great run for Suarez, coming in 6th. Chris Buescher, really hoped he would have won too. Another Texas native, but couldn't get it done. Reddick, Bowman, Hamlin, and Elliott. Really good run by Alex Bowman. Good to see him coming back after dealing with vertigo for a few. We'll go look at the standings. Not much has changed at the top. Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin still 1-2. We take 16 drivers to the chase in this, and it begins after race 26. You can see we've done 11 starts, so we have 15 more races to go. So plenty of time for people, even people way down here, some of them anyway. There's still a chance if you can get hot and make a run. So we'll go look at the top 20. That's where I like to look. So AJ Allmendinger would be in 20th, Van Gisbergen 19th. Like I said, he's holding on, which is what he needed to do. Now we're getting to some road courses. He can fly up these rankings pretty quick here. So we'll see what happens with him. Chastain still in 18th. Logano fell back 2 spots. He was in, now he's out. Chase Briscoe moved in. Austin Cindric. Daniel Suarez, Christopher Bell, Ryan Preece, Bubba Wallace, William Byron, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, Hocevar, Busher, Blaney, Elliott, Hamlin, and of course Reddick with 5 wins is going to be at the top. He's going to be hard to unseat. He's got a 109-point lead. Some of the names that I'm keeping an eye on in this, Suarez, can he keep up the run he's been on here lately? Austin Cindric is always one that he's good on road courses too, so we'll see how that plays out. But Van Gisbergen is who I'm really going to watch this week. Connor Zilic could make a fly up this. If he can win this race, he would fly up these standings. But we're going to have to wait and let it play out here. As of right now, you have 6 Toyotas, 5 Fords, and 5 Chevys. So a really balanced mix. Now, obviously, Ford, I mean, you got, if Chase Briscoe falls out, Logano would go in, you'd have 6-5, so it'll change, but I'd like it. I'm hoping it's balanced at the end where it's, 6-5-5, something like that as far as the cars in. Manufacturers, because I think it's better for the sport when all 3 manufacturers are involved. So other than that, with me turning purple again, I will cut this way shorter. I don't know why this computer keeps doing this, so I'm going to have to do some digging on that. But, I appreciate everybody tuning in. You can see the channel scrolling across the bottom. Like, subscribe to all of them. You can find me YouTube, Patreon, TikTok. You can find me on all of them. So with that being said, and before I feel the need to start singing I Love You, I am going to cut this short, and we will catch up later this week with our preview of Watkins Glen. Everybody have a good evening.